you never really know how they're going to work with you until you start working with them. Welcome back, guys. And today we're now taking a look at, as a founder, do you want to be outsourcing or do you want to build a team in house? I had the same dilemma when I started off. Should I get interns to work on my product? Should I get, two or three full time people to work on my product? Or do I find a co founder who has technical knowledge and bring them on to work on my product and kind of give them equity share in the whole business? These are dilemmas that you'll face when you are going to go ahead and build a product. And so it's always good to have technical knowledge. Obviously, because I mean, you don't have to be 100% thorough with programming or anything, but at least a little bit of knowledge here and there about how programming works, or what platform to build your app in, or where you want to host your services. And so all these little things matter. So it's good to have some knowledge. And so when I was faced with the dilemma of when I was trying to build my product, because it was an educational product, I wanted it to be built by students for students. And so when I thought about it, it was a good motto, and it definitely had a message that I was sending across. But at the same time, the delivery time of building that product would have definitely, like, just doing that initial research, it was going to take at least 2 to 3 years for me to see a well-rounded product. And I wanted to be in the market in a year or so. So the best possible solution for me was to either build a team in house and kind of recruit people and pay them, or look to outsource my development. Um, and so I went out and tried to understand how I could hire a team, and if I did hire a team, what are the consequences, or what liabilities am I taking onto the business? Because there's a lot of commitment when you're hiring a team internally, and obviously you need to run the team, you need to be functional in terms of being able to have the team full time. So there's a lot of things that you have to look into: payroll, and you don't have to have payroll systems and stuff, but you have to have a method of paying them and all that, no? Or just work with people, freelancers or freelance programmers or so on. So there's so many options, but at the same time, you want the option that's best for the company, and you also want a secure option in terms of the privacy and security uh, of your product that you're building. It might not be unique, but still, there's codes and there's things that you're obviously showing to your team, and you want that to be kept intact, and you don't want that to be shared amongst friends, or like you just don't want that to go out. Um, and so when I went, the way I decided the outsource, how to outsource, or know why I wanted to outsource, was predominantly because I didn't want to take on any a big liability on the company in terms of no paying salaries and so on. And plus, I was having my development team in another country. I wanted to definitely have it in India, and then but the business was registered in the US. So I couldn't take them on to like on board in the US company. So I had to either with them as a freelancer, or work with them, work with programmers, or work with an outsourcing team that would take on a project and kind of work out a structure. So the way I structured in terms of how I worked with my team, the outsourcing team, was that they would hire on behalf of me and take my project, and they would have employees on behalf of my project. So they're solely working on my project, and they had people to kind of assess and do the needful in terms of building the product. Because when you're hiring a team, it's not just hiring the developers, because it also looks, you have to look at an analyst, you have to look at probably a project manager and so on, unless you have all those skills. So it really matters on how many people you're going to hire, because If you're just going to hire three people and that's going to consist of an analyst, a developer, and a project manager, or so on, and whoever you really need, it's not going to fit into your bandwidth. So and plus, you're not going to get, if you do want someone with experience and so on, it's going to be very critical. Uh, but yes, so when going down the outsourcing route, there are certain things to look at, because I think I've worked with at least three teams, and I felt that the initial two teams had issues, and obviously there are lots of things that you kind of don't see. There are lots of things that it will obviously be a shock to you, as well as the timelines, um, and also just the reliability of the process, because you never really know how they're going to work with you until you start working with them. That is something that's hard to kind of figure out straight up, because as a startup you will be trying to go to an organization which is not like not like a very big consulting organization, IT services, or no, you're not going to go to the biggest of the guys, because obviously they're going to have a lot of costs involved. So it's crucial to understand who you're going to go into business with. Um, so yeah, not because not all service providers offer that same level of quality and expertise. So try to understand their previous clientele, and try to understand reputation reviews, and those are basic stuff. But at least how they can meet your standards. If they can meet your standards, and tell them, like, obviously check and understand what they've done before in the market, to understand like how their products have been, maybe even download a few and see how it works, and so on. And so yeah, because reliability is key. And it as a service provider, it's really important for you to be reliable on them, and like because you're gonna obviously have troubles coming in, and so you need to have people who can actually troubleshoot problems, and who have a track record of being dependable. And then you also want to have no agreements and things in place, which will offer you a good security, and in terms of privacy of because you're going to be dealing with customers, and the back end is going to be open to a lot of um, yeah, just all your customer base and everything is going to be known to them, obviously. So you're going to be dealing with a lot of data that's coming in. So you always want to keep sensitive data from reaching the wrong places. So check data protection policies and so on. So have those things cleared out, because a lot of companies, if it's just to build the product, they'll just build the product and give it to you. They're not going to go that extra mile to actually check and deliver on other things, or help you out in other things that you don't know, because and they don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know as well. So it's a very tricky situation. Um, so yeah, just before we continue, I think please do hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't. It really helps us, and I want to bring more content to you guys on things that I feel that are important. Um, in terms of no, just like even this topic of outsourcing or no in-house, because selecting a good product development team really makes it or breaks it for you, because costs are also huge when you're investing in a product. um, and obviously it's going to be it's going to be increasing, it's never going to decrease. So it's always going to take one step higher. It's always going to require more and more. So how much ever you're quoted, you should always keep a buffer of around 30 to 40% higher than that, so just so you're on the safer side. So in terms of just using them, and also because they're taking you on as a project, and what happens if they aren't able to fulfill on your needs, you need to have no plan Bs and all those things in place. So understand how can they accommodate for you know how can they accommodate for any issues that may arise. Try not to have a lock-in with them as much as possible, because if you have a lock-in, then that means you're constrained and you don't have a flexibility to move. So see, my issues that I faced when dealing with no initial people, initial like first two of my programmers or my development team was concerned, was that no, they were trustable and dependable and so on, but did not have the they didn't have quite amount of expertise that I required for building something like this in terms of understanding my vision for the whole thing. And obviously, you want them to understand the vision. You want them to understand what they're doing. Um, you also want them to understand what your vision for the organization is in terms of long term, maybe for the next 2 3 years, because obviously the development team has got to build a platform for your next phases of development. It's not that, oh yeah, next phase comes and then we'll have the team look into all the bugs and fix it, or we'll have the team look into all the backend and learn things. That's not how it works. If your backend is messy and your app is buggy, it's going to be hard for anyone to fix it, because if your development team is not the same, then it's going to be difficult. At the same time, if your app is buggy and slow, it's going to cost you more to keep going on and fixing issues. So it's better to be done the right way the first time. And yes, so in terms of understanding the team, so you probably want to understand the team a lot more. Try to meet the teams, try to meet the bigger team that's actually going to work with you, and try to understand, what sort of skill sets are within that team. um, and so that kind of mitigates some risks, and gives you some confidence on how things are going to proceed. So that will also help you understand your teammates better, and you can also obviously say a few words about your organization and let them know. Because a lot of times I felt that where development teams, or when you are outsourcing, where they cut costs, or testing. And so what actually happens is, when you go ahead into testing, um, they're not like the app or your product or your whatever you're offering is not tested well enough before it hits the market, and that's where a lot of the problems come in. um, which is ideally because they no they've tried to cut down on costs. So you don't want to cut down on costs because of testing. You want to have the right amount of testers, quality assurance testers, um, or just going through the workflow and seeing if there are any bugs, or if there are anything that we need to sort out. Those things cannot be missed. So you want the development to happen, but at the same time you also want equivalent testing. So you want the testing to be finished and thoroughly finished. And obviously, you should also be doing your own tests, because there will be a beta app, or a pre-launch app that you'll be given, for the like in the development phase, and so before it goes into production, so before it goes live. So when you're taking up those apps, please make sure that you're also testing it amongst yourself, like just yourself and your family, your friends, trusted people. Give them the app, try to ask them to test it, put their details, go through the workflow, play around with it, see if there are any bugs coming out, and then try to understand before going live. So this all comes into working together with the development team to kind of build the right solution, and coming out with the most stable solution possible. Um, and yes, so going back into selecting the outsource, or selecting a good outsourcing team, you also want to be able to meet compliance and regulations. You want your team to also understand compliance and regulations of certain, wherever your business is at, and so on. So that's another thing that I face, is that if no one knows about the compliance and regulations, then you have to do your own research. So and just doing research isn't enough. So you might have to request people to help you, and so on. And so if you are in a regulated field like education or healthcare, or in these areas, you need to understand what rules and regulations apply to you and don't apply to you. At the same time, if you are launching an app, then there are some rules and regulations around how what features that have to be there, must or mandatory features, if you're collecting data of your users and so on, for each app store, whether it be Apple or Google Play Store. So maybe know about those things prior to building your app, and then also have plans of innovations, like for the next 2 3 years, and lay that out to the team. So those things, can they accommodate for those changes? Can they, if you are working long term, can they do those? Do they have the bandwidth to do it? It's not just number of developers that you're like gonna work with. What's important is finding the right people that you're gonna work with. So don't just look at someone who's quoting you a lesser amount but has a lot of developers. And no, because you want to ensure that people that are working on your products has a good amount of expertise, or at least knowledge in their area or their skill sets, like they're strong in what they do. Yeah. And then also understand where your outsourcing team's data is stored, because that's important these days in terms of, if you are in the UK, then you have to be GDPR compliant. If you are in the States, there's other compliance and regulations, so that you have to follow, whether it be state or whether it be country specific rules. So you need to understand these things, and also understand data privacy rules and regulations around that. And so um, your team might not know everything, so you might want to have someone externally kind of review those things, or have those documentations in place, privacy policies in place, terms and conditions in place. So that those are simple things which are, no, if you are in a very heavily regulated area. And yeah, and these are probably the most significant things of choosing your outsourcing team. Don't do the mistake of just jumping on the cheapest one, because like, if you are going to go ahead and jump into the cheapest one, you've got to be aware they are going to be cutting costs somewhere. So try to understand, like, no, if you sit for 2 or 3 meetings with developer teams, or no, just the outsourcing teams in general, and they all quote you around, like, let's say 20K USD, or 30K USD, or even 50K USD. If everyone's quoting you around the same, then you can kind of like visualize around, like, where are they cutting the costs, and what's happening, how is this getting to where they are in terms of costing. But at the same time, evaluate maybe vendors from different countries. Try to understand how, country specific changes in costs can happen. I chose India because, development costs are much lower, as well as you get a lot of quality for the work that they do. um, and the time taken, whereas, for me, it took me 6 to 8 months to build the product, whereas if I were, like, the quotes that I got from the UK and the US took much longer. So it was more like a year or year and a half to actually get out into the market. So yeah, things like that. So you might want to, look at those things before actually jumping in. But cheaper is not always better, and it's more expensive does not necessarily always mean it's the best. Um, so so yeah, so just understand, like, the contract as well, because when you go into the contract phase, try to understand, if it makes sense for both of you guys. It should be a win-win for both, right? And then have ways to kind of control how your money flows out as well. So whether it be project wise, or whether it be target wise, try to understand how you can break down those areas as well, and that will help you kind of break down and see things in a much clearer way of your product, how your product's actually improving. And from there, you can also obviously understand what are the monetary aspects you need to, arrange costs, or arrange money, or arrange funding, to keep the development going. um, yeah, and that's pretty much it from my side. And I hope you found this useful, guys. Now, if you do have any questions, please hit me up or drop it in the comment section, and we'll chat later, or connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to always assist you guys, or help you guys with any requirements that you might have. I can obviously refer you to some companies as well if you do have any requirements, and I'm happy to assist in any way possible. Even if you want, to consult or have some hourly consulting, that's definitely possible for me. Yeah, I'm happy to assist you guys, and let's keep in touch. Please subscribe if you haven't, and please like and share the video with others. And if you're startup founders, keep grinding. You're getting there. You're just one step away. Take care, guys. Have a good one.